Hey guys, it's Fabre from Fad Designs. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you the steps I took to create my first black opal or galaxy effect tumbler. I saw a couple of tutorials when I was researching this, but I couldn't find any that showed me exactly what I was looking for, so I thought I'd try to tackle it on my own. I started with a prepped tumbler that I spray painted black. I used several glitters throughout this process, but all of them either had an opal or color shift effect. And I have sped up this video just so it's not as long for you guys. The first glitter that I started with was Pink Opal by Glamz. When I applied these glitters on the cup, I didn't have any direction, no rhyme or reason, I just sprinkled them randomly all over the cup. The second glitter that I used was Press Street Station by Mr. Nola's Glitter. The third glitter was Firecracker by Peachy Olive Glitters. The next glitter was Moni Moni by Glitter Done Texas. Then I used Autumn Bliss by the Glitter Craze. Cajun Riviera by Mr. Nola's Glitter went on next. Then I tried a glitter called Pandora by the Glitter Craze, but after applying it in a couple spots, I decided that it was a bit too chunky for what I was going for, so I stopped and I started applying another glitter by the Glitter Craze called Amethyst all over the spots where I had just applied Pandora, and then in a couple additional spots as well. next glitter that I applied was called Girl's Best Friend by the glitter Craze. You'll notice that I start tapping down the glitter. This is a great thing to do if you're using chunky glitters, because you want your glitter to lay as flat as it can on the cup so that when you epoxy, it's a smooth coat and you don't have to sand as much. Don't forget to do the bottom of your cups. I did use a glitter on the bottom of the cup that I didn't use anywhere else on it. It was called Hippie Mix by I Spy. Then I started to sprinkle a glitter called Silk by Peachy Olive Glitter all over the cup, just trying to make sure it was all coated, everything was covered, there was no empty spots. I decided to add one last color to this cup. It was a yellow chunky mix called Citrus Twist by Glitter Fetish. I pretty much used every color on this cup, but it turned out really pretty. Next, you'll see me go makeover and adding a couple of the colors I had already used and tapping down some of the glitter, trying to get it as flat as possible, like I mentioned before. And here's just a visual recap of all the glitters that I used on the cup. By this stage in the process, I had already applied one layer of epoxy to the cup and let it dry. For this part, I applied another thin layer of epoxy and then mixed some black mica pigment called Black Onyx by Black Diamond Pigments into a small cup of epoxy. I also added a couple drops of black Piñata alcohol ink into the cup as well. and then I started to drizzle it all over the cup. So if you've ever tried the Milky Way technique or watched a tutorial on it, this part is somewhat similar. Next, I got my heat gun and applied some heat to move the black epoxy mix around on the cup. After it started moving around, I noticed that it wasn't enough, and so I kept applying. It is much easier to apply more than it is to apply too much and try to take it off. You'll also see that I add drops of black alcohol ink because I found that the mica mixture just wasn't dark enough for what I was going for. This was all very experimental. I found some things that I liked about it, some things that I would do differently if I try this again. And I will also add that when I applied the thin epoxy coat to this cup, I let it sit a bit too long as I got busy with some other side projects. So it had started to cure a little bit, so it wasn't as fluid as it needed to be. So when I applied the alcohol ink and the mica mixture, it just didn't move as much as it should have. So doing it again, I would not wait as long after I applied the epoxy to the cup. And being that this was an experimental trial run, in the tutorial videos that I'd watched, I saw a lot of people use silicone oils to create cells in their alcohol inks or mica powders, whatever mixture they were using, and I didn't have that. So I'd also seen where people had tried WD-40, which I did have. So I tested that out, and it did work. It did create cells. So you can see that I just sprayed a little bit into a cup, and I'm dabbing it on with a silicone applicator, and then applying more heat to spread them around. You'll notice that I pick the cup up off the turner and turn it vertical, and then all kind of ways. It gets the alcohol inks flowing and creates all kind of different patterns and effects. Then I go back and I add more mica powder and more alcohol ink and more heat. Basically, I just kept doing this until I was satisfied with how it looked. I did find that I preferred the alcohol ink to the mica powder. It was more pigmented, a little bit darker, and that's really the look that I was going for. So next time I would probably use just the alcohol ink and I wouldn't fool with the mica powder. So this was the end result after I stopped messing with things. Overall, I was happy and I think it turned out pretty. I would do some things differently, like I said, the next time. But I hope this tutorial was helpful, and that it inspires some of you to try your own black opal or galaxy tumbler.